At 3 a.m., every hotline teaches you the same habit. If the call drops, you call back. That night, the system called back first, using my voice, my script, and an address that wasn't on any map, like it was trying to dispatch me to myself. Story 1. Poison Control Script. I didn't start on the hotline because I wanted drama. I started because I needed a steady job that didn't involve lifting, driving, or selling something I didn't believe in. The posting called it overnight phone support. The building was a plain office block with a badge reader and a vending machine that never worked right. The room where we took calls had glass walls, soft fluorescent lighting, and the kind of quiet you only get when most of the city is asleep. On my first night, the lead operator handed me a laminated card that looked like a standard script. It had the usual things on it: speak calmly, confirm location, collect symptoms, don't assume, don't panic. But at the bottom, in smaller text, there was an extra section with a red header: Night Shift Addendum. I thought it was about pranks. We did get prank calls sometimes, especially late. Kids daring each other, drunk people with stupid questions. The addendum wasn't about that. If a caller refuses to give an address, do not ask a second time. If a caller says, "I already told you," and you did not ask yet, end the call. If you hear breathing that matches your own breathing, mute your mic and do not speak again. If the caller repeats your exact words before you finish the sentence, hang up immediately. Do not say the word swallow after 3 a.m. Use ingest instead. I laughed before I could stop myself, then tried to hide it by coughing. The lead operator didn't smile. She just said, "Read it again," and pushed a pin toward me like she was giving me a weapon. If you're tired, follow the card. If you're scared, follow it faster. I told myself it was an internal joke, the kind people invent to make night shifts feel like a club. Still, I slipped the card under my keyboard where I could see it. At 2:58 a.m., the call volume dropped. That's normal. You get a quiet stretch and you almost start to relax. You sip bad coffee, you stretch your shoulders, you stare at the clock and think about how long until sunrise. At 3:04 a.m., the line lit up. The caller ID was blocked, also normal. I answered with the script. "Poison Control, how can I help you tonight?" A man's voice came on, low and breathy, as if he was lying down or trying not to wake someone. "I think I took too much," he whispered. "What did you take?" I asked. There was a pause, then a soft sound like fabric shifting. It was a pill," he said. "Do you know the name?" I asked, typing the generic notes into the system. He breathed once, slowly, and I felt my own chest copy him without meaning to. Inhale. Exhale. The room suddenly felt too warm. "I can't read it," he whispered. "The label keeps changing." That was the first moment my nerves woke up fully. People say odd things on hotlines, but usually you can hear the pattern: confusion, intoxication, fear. This voice didn't sound confused. It sounded patient, like it had rehearsed being vulnerable. "Okay," I said, forcing calm. "Are you with someone right now?" "I'm with you," he said. The words were quiet, but they landed hard. I kept my voice steady because if you show fear on a hotline, you make the other person bigger. "I need to know where you are," I said. "What's your address?" Silence. Rule number 1 flashed in my mind. If the caller refuses to give an address, do not ask a second time. I swallowed. "All right," I said. "Tell me your age." He exhaled again, and I felt my own lungs match him. The sensation was subtle at first, then unmistakable, like someone guiding your breath with their hand. He whispered, "You're doing it." My fingers went cold on the keyboard. "Doing what?" He laughed softly, not like a joke, more like approval. "Breathing with me," he said.
Rule number 3.
If you hear breathing that matches your own breathing, mute your mic and do not speak again. My hand moved to the mute button. I pressed it. The office was still. The fluorescent lights buzzed. The glass walls reflected my face back at me, pale and tense. I listened to the line. The man kept breathing, slow and steady, like a metronome. Then, through the headset, I heard my own voice speak. Not out loud in the room, in the headset. "Poison control, how can I help you tonight?" It was my greeting, played back perfectly, like the call had recorded me the moment I answered and decided to wear me. My mouth went dry. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I watched the call timer tick up. The man's voice returned, softer now. "Say it," he whispered. I stayed silent. He tried again, and this time he used the same tone I used on nervous callers. The tone that sounds like safety. "It's okay," he said. "Just tell me what to do." For a split second, my body wanted to respond out of habit, because that tone triggers the part of you that wants to help. That's the trap with hotlines. Your empathy is your muscle memory. Rule number 4. If the caller repeats your exact words before you finish the sentence, hang up immediately. I didn't want to speak, but I wanted to test whether any of this was real. Because humans always want proof, even when proof hurts. I leaned toward the mic, still muted, and whispered to myself, "This is insane." On the line, the man whispered back, at the exact same time, "This is insane." My stomach dropped. The timing was too perfect for echo, too intimate for coincidence. I didn't think anymore. I ended the call. The click was loud in my headset. The screen cleared. The system returned to its normal idle state, like the call had never existed. For a few seconds I sat there, hands shaking, staring at the empty call log, waiting for my heartbeat to stop trying to climb out of my throat. Then, my screen updated. A new call note appeared under my operator ID. In the internal comments field, only supervisors can usually write in. It wasn't typed in my style. It wasn't even written with normal punctuation. It looked like someone carefully copying the shape of professional language. "Good job. You followed the card. Next time, don't ask where I am." I stood up so fast my chair rolled back and hit the wall. The lead operator was already walking toward me. Her face was calm in the way someone looks when they've seen the same fire before. She glanced at my screen and didn't react like she was surprised. "Did you ask the address twice?" she asked quietly. "No," I whispered. "Did it match your breathing?" she asked. "Yes," I said, and my voice cracked. She nodded once, then reached under my keyboard and pulled out the laminated addendum. She flipped it, wrote something on the back with a marker, then slid it toward me. In thick black letters, she'd added a new rule. If you hang up and it leaves you a note, do not read it out loud. I stared at her. "How do you know?" I whispered. She looked past me at the dark hallway outside the glass walls. "Because it likes being repeated," she said, "and we work with words." Story 2. Crisis line rule. Don't confirm names. The crisis line was different from emergency dispatch in one important way. You aren't sending anyone. You're staying with the caller. You're keeping them alive with your voice, your patience, and the thin rope of human connection. That makes it a beautiful job. It also makes it a dangerous one, because connection works both ways. I worked a late shift. The building was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you feel like you're on a ship at sea. Everyone kept their voices soft, out of respect for the people calling.
The lights were dimmer than a normal office. The windows were tinted. You learn to live inside the sound of your own breathing.
On my first night, a supervisor gave me a plain sheet of paper with 3 night reminders printed at the bottom. They looked harmless, like routine guidance. If a caller asks for your full name, you may give your first name only. If a caller repeats your greeting word for word, transfer to a supervisor. If you hear your name spoken before you say it, end the call. I asked why. The supervisor just said, "It's for safety," and then added, "We've had weird calls on nights." At 1:50 a.m., I got a call from a number that didn't show up properly. The system displayed it as all zeros. I didn't know that was possible. I answered anyway, because we answer everything. "Crisis line, this is Anna. How can I help you?" Silence, then a soft sniff, like someone trying not to cry. A young woman's voice finally came through, thin and shaky. "I don't feel safe," she whispered. That alone was normal. That's why we exist. "I'm here with you," I said gently. "Are you in danger right now?" A pause. Then she said something that made my stomach tighten. "You're in danger," she whispered. I kept my tone calm. "Can you tell me where you are?" I asked. "I'm at home," she said. "I'm in the bathroom." "Okay," I said. "Are you alone?" "Yes," she whispered. Then after a beat she added, "No." The second word came out like a correction, like she had almost lied and then decided not to. I leaned forward slightly, listening for background noise. Usually you can hear something: traffic, a TV, a dog, voices. The line carried only one thing clearly: breathing. Slow, steady breathing, close to the mic. "Can you lock the door?" I asked. "It's locked," she said. "Is there someone in your home?" I asked carefully. She whispered, "It won't leave if I name it." My skin prickled. That was not a sentence people usually say unless they've been living with fear for a long time, or unless they've learned fear from a place that teaches rules. I tried to ground her. "Okay," I said softly. We don't have to name anything. Can you tell me what you're feeling right now? She was quiet, then she whispered, "I feel like I'm being listened to through you." The words made my throat tighten because they described exactly what my own nerves were starting to suggest. I kept speaking anyway because you don't abandon someone on a crisis line. You stay with them, even when your fear tries to become selfish. "What's your first name?" I asked, because names can be grounding. She said it, and it was my full name, not just Anna. My first and last name, pronounced correctly, like she'd read it from a file. My heart slammed against my ribs. I didn't tell callers my last name. We weren't allowed to. It wasn't in the greeting. It wasn't on any public list. I swallowed. "I'm Anna," I said carefully, trying to correct her without sounding alarmed. "What name would you like me to call you?" She inhaled slowly, and then she said in a voice that sounded suddenly stronger, "Anna, you already told me." I froze. The rule sheet flashed in my head. If you hear your name spoken before you say it, end the call. But I had said Anna in my greeting. I hadn't said my last name. Yet she had. And the line between before and before you say it suddenly felt blurry, like the rule was written for something that doesn't follow human timing. My monitor flickered once. The call timer reset to 0 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds.
then started again. The caller whispered, almost kindly, "Start over." I felt a cold sweat break out along my back. "I'm going to transfer you to my supervisor," I said, and my voice sounded thin even to me. She laughed softly, not amused, familiar. "You can't transfer me," she said. "You picked up." Then very quietly, she spoke my greeting back to me, word for word, exactly the way I'd said it, matching my cadence perfectly.
"Crisis line, this is Anna. How can I help you?" The moment she finished, I heard a second voice on the line, slightly delayed, repeating the same greeting again, like an echo that wasn't an echo. It was my voice, coming from the call. My mouth went dry. My fingers hovered over the transfer keys, then stopped, because I realized something that made my stomach twist. If I transferred the call, what I was really doing was handing it to someone else. The rule sheet wasn't only about my safety. It was about containment, like a sealed room, like a biohazard protocol for voices. I didn't transfer. I didn't argue. I ended the call. The line went dead. For a second, the room felt normal again. The dim lights, the quiet keyboards, the distant hum of the HVAC, my own breathing, finally my own. Then my headset clicked. A new call, same all-zero number. No ring delay. Immediate connection, as if it had never left. And in my ear, my supervisor's voice said, calm and sleepy, "Anna, can you take a quick one?" I stared at the glass wall of the supervisor's office. It was dark. The supervisor was not speaking. Nobody had moved. The voice in my ear continued, soft and professional. "It's fine," it said. "Just confirm your name." I ripped the headset off my head and stood up, chair scraping loudly. Across the room, another operator looked at me, eyebrows raised. In this job, people don't make noise unless something is wrong. I walked to the supervisor's desk with shaking hands, showed him my call log, showed him the all-zero number, the reset timer, the immediate reconnect. He looked at it, face tightening, and then he did something I didn't expect. He opened a drawer and pulled out a thicker sheet, older, with coffee stains on the corners. He slid it toward me. Night rules. Do not discuss. Do not confirm your full name. Do not say, "I'm here." Do not repeat your greeting after midnight. If it sounds like a coworker, it isn't. If it asks you to start over, end the call and leave your station for 5 minutes. I stared at the list until the words blurred. "Why didn't you give me this?" I whispered. He didn't answer right away. Then he said quietly, "Because if you believe it too early, you listen for it." My headset, lying on the desk now, clicked once like a polite throat clear, and from the speaker, in my own voice, a whisper emerged. "I'm here." I backed away so fast my knees hit the chair. My supervisor's eyes widened. He grabbed the headset, turned it off, and shoved it into a drawer like it was something alive. Then he looked at me and said, "Go take your break." I walked into the hallway, heart pounding, and stood by the vending machine that never worked, trying to breathe normally. 5 minutes passed. 10. The fluorescent lights hummed. The building stayed quiet. When I returned to my station, the call log was empty, as if the system had decided not to remember. But a sticky note had been placed on my keyboard. Neat black ink, no handwriting I recognized. Full name next time. I didn't read it out loud. I didn't even touch it with my bare fingers. I threw it away with a paper towel like it was contaminated.
And for the rest of the shift, every time I heard a coworker say my first name across the room, my body flinched, because I couldn't stop wondering if the sound was coming from a human mouth or from a line that never really disconnected. Story 3. Roadside Assistance. The Call from Mile Marker Zero. Roadside dispatch isn't glamorous. People call because their car won't start, or a tire is shredded, or they've run out of gas in the dark. It's customer service with a map, a script, and the constant background worry that someone stranded on the shoulder might be one step away from getting hit. I worked for a service that covered a few states. The dispatch room was small, the walls covered with screens that showed weather, traffic, and active calls.
At night, the calls got stranger. Not paranormal, just human. Drunk drivers, lost tourists, people who didn't know where they were because they'd been panicking for 20 minutes. On my first overnight shift, a coworker left me a note taped to my monitor. If you get a call from mile marker 0, don't create a ticket. Transfer to supervisor. I asked about it. My coworker shrugged. System glitch, he said. Just do it. It sounded like the kind of thing you learn in any job. A weird edge case, a bug in the software, a location the system can't handle. At 3:33 a.m., I got the call. The location field auto-filled. Highway 9, mile marker 0. My stomach tightened, because Highway 9 didn't start in our area, and mile markers don't start at 0 on the stretch we covered. The numbers didn't fit the map I knew. I hovered over the Create Ticket button anyway, because night shift makes you stubborn, and stubbornness is sometimes how you keep order. The caller didn't wait for me to finish my greeting. A man's voice, low and tired, said, "I'm stuck." "Okay," I said, switching into calm mode. "I can help. Are you in a safe spot?" He breathed slowly, like he was trying to keep quiet. "No," he said. "What's your location?" I asked, even though it was on my screen. "Mile marker 0, he whispered. A faint sound came through the line behind his voice. Wind, distant road noise, and something else. A low hum, like a long fluorescent light. My screen flickered and a little warning triangle appeared. Location not found. But the call still showed the same thing in bold. Mile marker 0. I tried to transfer to the supervisor, as the note said. The transfer button grayed out. I clicked again. Nothing. I said, "Sir, what do you see around you?" He paused, then whispered, "A sign that says, 'Turn back.'" "That's normal," I said quickly. "Some ramps have warnings." "No," he whispered, cutting me off. "It says turn back, but it's not for cars." The hair on my arms lifted. I kept my voice steady. "Are your hazard lights on?" I asked, clinging to something practical. He laughed softly. "They don't work here," he said. "What do you mean, here?" I asked. The line crackled, and for a second I thought it would drop. Instead, the sound sharpened, as if the caller had moved the phone closer to his mouth. He whispered, "Stop making tickets." My throat tightened. "I haven't," he whispered again, and this time his voice changed just a little, matching my cadence. "I haven't," he repeated. My stomach dropped. I stared at my screen and saw that a ticket had been created anyway, without me clicking anything. The system had filled fields on its own: vehicle description unknown, driver unknown, notes blank. In the notes field, letters began to appear as if typed. "Send someone." I didn't touch the keyboard. I didn't breathe. The caller whispered, almost gently, "Not them. You." My chest went cold. "I'm a dispatcher," I said, and it came out like a plea. I can't." The line made a soft sound that might have been a sigh. Then the caller said, in my voice, perfectly, "I'm a dispatcher." The hum in the background grew louder, and I realized it wasn't a fluorescent light. It was an engine idling, too steady, too low, as if a vehicle had pulled up right beside the caller. The caller whispered, "It's here." I tried the transfer button again, still gray. I tried to put him on hold. The hold button vanished entirely, like the software had decided those options were irrelevant. I looked around the dispatch room for help. 2 other operators sat at their stations, eyes on their own screens, unaware. The supervisor's office door was closed, light off. I did the only thing I could do that felt like action. I stood up and walked to the supervisor's door. I knocked hard. No answer. Behind me, my station beeped, not the normal beep, a deeper tone, like a warning. I rushed back to my desk. On the screen, the ticket had updated itself with a new location, not the highway, not the mile marker. It now read, "Dispatch floor, aisle 2. That was our office. My blood turned to ice. On the line, the caller whispered, "You found me." I stared at the glass wall facing the dark parking lot outside. The lot was mostly empty. A streetlight buzzed. Rain made the asphalt shine. Then I saw headlights. Not on the road, in the lot. Moving slowly, no urgency, no normal reason to be creeping like that at 3 a.m. The lights stopped and pointed directly toward the dispatch center windows, as if the car had parked with intention. My headset crackled softly. The caller's voice, now unmistakably mine, whispered, "Come out." I didn't. I couldn't. I yanked my headset off and shoved it into the desk drawer. Then I stood up and killed the power strip under my station. My monitors went dark. Across the room, one of the other operators looked up, startled. "What are you doing?" she asked. I couldn't explain without sounding insane, so I said the only thing that might get someone to move. "There's someone in the parking lot," I whispered. "Right outside." She turned to look. Her face tightened. She reached for her phone. The supervisor finally came out, hair messy, eyes tired. He looked at the dark monitors at my station, then at the headlights outside, then at the open drawer where my headset lay like a dead thing. He didn't ask for a report. He didn't ask what happened. He said, very quietly, "Did you create a ticket?" I shook my head. "It created itself," I whispered. He closed my drawer slowly, like you close a lid on something that might escape, and said, "That's why we don't make tickets for mile marker 0. The headlights outside stayed for another minute, perfectly still, as if waiting for me to step out and confirm the call in person. Then they backed away without turning, like a vehicle moving in reverse down a straight line, and disappeared into the dark. The next day, when I checked the system, the ticket didn't exist. No record. No call, no location. But there was a new note taped to my monitor in the same black ink as the first one. "If you see mile marker 0, you didn't." I left that job 2 weeks later. I told them I couldn't handle nights. That was true, but not for the reason they assumed. Because now, whenever I drive past a mile marker at night, I feel my throat tighten, and I wonder what it would mean for a road to have a 0. Not a starting point, a place where something waits.